Yeah, welcome to More Than Black and White podcast, where health, hustle, and higher thinking meet. I'm your host, Brian. My man, Paul. How are you, buddy? Good?
What's up?
Each week we like to explore real conversations on mindset, motivation, holistic health, entrepreneurship, and just the overall human experience. This is not just another podcast. It's a movement to challenge you to step outside your comfort zone and to help you live your purpose. So let's dive into Paul, my man.
Yes. Yes. And in honor of Sunday, can I get an amen off of that? Yo, I love that intro. I love that intro. And I love that we're here talking to you all about the goodies, man. Like, listen, this topic is something I'm so happy you brought this up, bro, because like looking into this in the biohacking, like, first of all, like what is biohacking, right?
Yeah.
The definition, just the definition we're talking about. We're going to dive into more. The definition is taking control of your biology using science, tools, lifestyle changes that will optimize your health, your mind and your body. And I'm also going to add in there your spirit. I'm curious, what is it about this topic that resonates, like that matters to you and also matters now, bro?
Yeah, I like this topic because a lot of people don't really understand biohacking. They think of like little gimmicks and like watches to control your heart rate, but like don't really know what it does. Right. And I want to break it down. There's so many different ways you can biohack. I mean, there's probably like 100 different topics. So today we just kind of picked out 5 of them. If you guys enjoy it, let us know. We'll do another 5. Awesome. But it's what I like about it. It's a safe way of doing it. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're trying to, you have ADD or whatever like that, or you have joint issues, you have other stuff going on in your body, you have heart conditions, don't just run to the doctor and give them a pill for it, which could make it actually worse. But the thing with biohacking, it teaches you how to take responsibility for yourself. It educates you on what your body is about, and you're not going to hurt yourself doing it. I mean, I guess you could, but if you hurt yourself doing this, just, go on Amazon and buy a helmet and don't leave the house, but, but it's just an overall safe way of doing things without any kind of repercussions, which a lot of the medical system, it does affect you in a negative way. So it's interesting. I like it.
Bro, why am I sitting here thinking of some dude with a tin foil cap on his head, man? I'm like, you said that, I'm like, oh, no. Dude, I love what you said there about is getting to really know your body.
Yeah.
And that is super important because you and I have had conversations on the level of stress and chronic diseases that are prevalent in our culture right now. I mean, like, the numbers are startling, bro. So I'm excited for us to talk about like the biohacking, and some of the things that we're going to talk about specifically are some of the things that are really that are gaining steam. And I mean, like, there's franchises out here with these different biohack strategies. I know it's like Sweat House and some other things out there.
Yeah.
Specifically like the cold plunges, red light therapy, even I think LT is in the cold plunge piece right now. Also peptides and intermittent fasting, and both of our favorites, meditation and mindfulness, man. So let's dude, you ready to dive into this piece, man? Ready to dive in?
I'm ready, man.
But let's take the plunge. All right, so let's look at the cold plunge. Okay, you like how I did that? Anyway, look, B. So, for cold plunging, I think a lot of people have heard about this, right?
Yeah.
And first time I heard about this was from Wim Hof. And he was cold.
That guy's crazy, man. That guy. Guy's walking up like the Himalayan mountains in his underwear.
But think about it.
He's on another level, man. I give props to him.
But is that not the epitome of biohacking?
That's the epitome of mind over matter, man. Your mind is so powerful,
brother.
He has some interesting stuff out there. A lot of interesting breathing techniques, and it's fascinating. I mean, doctors and, researchers have been studying this guy for, a couple, I want to say like at least a decade now. And he's just, but what I like about him, he always says like, we all have the potential to do what he's doing. Yes. Just, what's between the ears is getting in our way. Yes. But so you heard it from Wim Hof. I mean, I've heard of this stuff for like, pretty much since I've been following, like, for example, football, since I was like 10 years old. I see these people in the ice baths. I'm like, what are they doing? Like I understand, like I understand it was some kind of recovery, but didn't really understand what it was used for, but the ultimate, like, basically the best way for, as far as biohacking, one of the best ways, I shouldn't say the best way, but it's really good for just overall weight loss and fat loss, especially fat loss. Really powerful for that.
Yes, brother. And listen, very powerful. And before we go on, I just want to, I want to recognize too that, like, even though you and I are in this, and these are the types of things like we see or we're around, like there may be some people that are watching this that have yet to know what the heck this is.
Yeah.
So what a cold plunge is, to be specific, is you're immersing your body in cold water. So this is where it's not like a cold shower. I know people talk about that stuff. This is actually going into a tub, ice, a certain temperature, and you're submerging in that cold water for a certain period of time. So as Brian said, and it's like, it's like taking a bath with ice, or if you go swim in a cold lake, quick dip in a pool or ocean. This is cold plunge, and some of the benefits, like Brian, I'm so happy you brought brought me back, man, because I can remember like some of the old sports movies and stuff, like Cats in the Cold Plunge. You know what I mean, dude? And even Kevin Hart had this thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kevin Hart. Yeah.
Freaking brilliant. And the thing is, and B, you mentioned a part of it is muscle recovery, reduced inflammation, stress relief, and also fat loss, bro. So B, are you able to talk to how it impacts the fat loss?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm curious because I think that'd be important for people.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of bullet points we can talk about, but let's start with like the basics. Like you basically, when you burn fat, you're burning calories, right? Yeah. So a calorie, by definition, is the amount of energy needed to raise 1 centimeter cube of water by 1 degree. So what does that mean in English? Basically, when your body loses heat, it's actually burning calories. Okay. So, but don't think of the opposite. Like when you're in a sauna, your body's gaining heat, so it's gaining calories. It doesn't work that way. You're still burning calories. I've actually had somebody say that to me when I was explaining this to me, like, oh, so when I'm in the sauna, I'm actually gaining calories. I'm like, no, it just works in a different way. So the colder your body gets, the more calories your body's gonna burn. So this, like, so for example, like when you have something called cold shock proteins, and these are stored in your liver, and it releases into the bloodstream during intense cold exposure. And their job when those cold shock proteins get into your bloodstream is to scavenge up all those free radicals, anything that reduces oxidative stress or any kind of inflammation. And it just accelerates at the same time. It accelerates protein synthesis, which is basically the main thing for muscle repair and recovery. So the more muscle you have on your body, the more thermogenic it'll be. You'll be burning more fat. So not only does it just kill inflammation, it also increases muscle mass by just recovering a lot better in muscle repair. So when I'm working with a client, you're working with a client, one of the first 2 things you always want to do is control inflammation and control blood sugar levels. So this is super important just for this, just for this aspect.
Dude,
that answer your question?
Yes, very much so. I'm going to start calling you Bill Nye, the science guy. Because, dude, that's very important. And I really appreciate the way you broke that down, because, and also the thinking that people can have, especially when we're talking about like when the body, there's a couple of things that really stuck out. Talked about how the body's measured when the body's losing heat. That's when it's got to expend to survive, right? Yeah. And then the second piece was, oh shoot, I was locked into that one. But anyway, I'll get back to it. I think it's important for people to understand like how it works, and also just how to go about it.
Yeah.
Because this is more than just dunking yourself in a tub of ice and cold water. This is first, B and I are big about intention, right? So first you got to be intentional. What are you doing it for? Second, there's certain precautions that you got to take. Like, so for example, I know when I was looking into this, it was talking about people with cardiovascular health, people with diabetes, poor circulation, those people, pregnant women, older adults. You want to consult with a physician first, or consult a professional, or like how Brian and I do here. We're here to help you be an advocate for your health and well-being. So figure out what works for you. It may be like you got to take it in stages, or you got to really work with your body. I know for me, when I do cold showers or cold plunges, I got to really focus on my breath because I have high blood. Well, my body's experiencing high blood pressure at this point in my life, right? So what I get to do is like, I got to make sure my breathing's right. So when I go in and there's that shock, I got to breathe, like just like let my body, my oxygen take in and help it to heat my body up, right, in a way. Because it's funky, man. When you go in, especially when you're with a practitioner that knows what the heck they're doing, you're gonna find. I don't know if it was like this for you, B, but when I went in cold plunge and I got my breathing right, bruh, it was like my body was needles and hot.
Yeah.
How is this possible? It's crazy, bro.
Yeah, you just don't jump into it. But as far as like heart issues go, yeah, if you've never done it before, I wouldn't recommend jumping in 35-degree water.
Start with the cold shower.
Yeah, like you start slow. Of course, consult with the doctor. I mean, I don't know what the doctor's going to understand. He's going to probably just tell you, hey, just take it slow, or minimize it. They don't know too much about this stuff unless they really studied it outside of medical school. But one of the reasons it's really good for your heart is it creates peripheral vasostriction on the peripheral, meaning like your limbs and stuff like that. And when it does that, you get more oxygen and blood flow in the core and the brain. So it's really healthy for all your organs that are in your core. And when we say core, we just don't mean stomach. Your core is actually from the top of the vertebrae down to the pelvis. So all those organs in there. And it's really good for just brain oxygenation. So so it constricts all the blood vessels in your peripheral, in your limbs, and it just pushes everything on the inside and up into the brain. So it forces oxygen-rich blood into your core and brain. So it boosts brain function, it helps clear fogginess, it improves your mood, and it helps with deep sleep too, because you just get deeper in your sleep when you have more oxygen in your brain. So another thing too, one more little side note is you have something called brown fat in thermogenesis. Yeah, so we've all heard of this, right? Most of us heard of this. So cold exposure activates, brown fat, and brown fat burns energy to generate heat. So it's almost like it speeds it up, and it just creates the more it speeds up and the more it spins, just more heat is being broken down. That's basically what thermogenesis is on a simple level. So they just burn calories at a cellular level. But as far as like, hey, if you want to try this out, what are some of the protocols? And I got these from Gary Brecka, and he basically says, hey, he goes in at 50 degrees water. So I think that's like around 10 degrees Celsius. If anybody over outside the U.S. is listening, it's about basically 50-degree water. It doesn't have to be 35. He knows people that jump in at 35, but he says that there's no research on something going 50 to 35. There's no really big difference in there with that. And he does 3 to 6 minutes at a time. That's all he does, 3 to 6 minutes, and he kind of goes from there.
Yeah, you don't need much, man.
No.
I mean, and I'm so happy you said that, because I think we're in a culture of like more is better. Bigger is better. No, not necessarily. Yeah. That's a bunch of hogwash. I do. This is really cool, and I'm finding myself wanting to talk about this more, and I realize we got some other ones that we want to get into. So if you have questions on the cold plunges, send us an email. Again, I'm going to put this out here. Send us an email or reply in the comments. Let us know, hey, what are the additional questions that you have? But we want to move on into another form of biohacking, which is